Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We watch WWE Smackdown every Friday night and give a recap after the bell. My name is John Zindel. This is Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people about yourself.
It's a post-major pay-per-view SmackDown here on July 7th, and not your typical show, and maybe not your typical Don't Bury the Lead here. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from tonight's SmackDown?
You know, we had Roman Reigns in the main event in a talking segment, but I'm going to pivot here because we like the pro wrestling. We're a wrestling show. We see all the promos, they're a thing that happens, but really we're more so into the pro wrestling. So I'm going to say Edge goes over Grayson Waller in his debut in a pretty fine main event match here.
Yes.
Tom, what did you think about Edge going over Grayson Waller here in the main?
This was a second half of the second hour. It was really the main event wrestling match, as you alluded to, because we got a sort of a talking and then schmoz segment at the end. But yeah, Edge, they gave him about 14 minutes here, which is longer than any singles match got at Money in the Bank. So they let these guys go. This was a pretty good match, wasn't it? And for wondering who this Grayson Waller guy is and why they chose to debut him as this smarmy talk show host that we're all supposed to know, this is the first time we got to see him wrestle. I thought he was pretty good in the ring.
Yeah.
And of course, Edge, the second hardest working retired wrestler in the WWE to Rey Mysterio. Edge, he was drafted to SmackDown and he shows up every now and then. And this was a big one. Did you like this match and did you like this role for Edge?
I think this actually went as good as it could have gone.
Okay.
I saw the Grayson Waller effect at 9 p.m. and thought, oh, God, here we go again. But Edge went out, initially and shot a pretty good promo, a really good babyface promo. Maybe I'll touch on that a little bit later. But specifically, as far as the match was concerned, there's a lot of stuff to like about it. I would say this about Grayson Waller, and this is a compliment. He felt like an indie guy. He felt like an indie pro wrestler in that he knew to talk to the crowd. So he's screaming at the crowd the whole time.
Yes.
Heels forget this, or all wrestlers forget this, that they're playing to the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a great job talking to the crowd the whole time. He's not the most powerful looking guy on the planet, but he's athletic enough. And he's not really the most athletic as far as the way he was like wrestling. He wasn't doing he's not Bret Hart out there. He's not Rey Mysterio. But I think the way they structured it showed some of his strengths, which is just he's doing kind of a unique offense, to be honest with you.
Okay, let's go on to those 2 points. Yes, I do like that he was joining with the crowd. In fact, I wrote it down early on. The crowd is chanting for Edge, "You still got it. You still got it." And Waller gets the upper hand and yells back to the crowd, "I've got it too."
Right.
There's basically 3 people I've seen as heels really jaw with the crowd. It's Roman Reigns, Ronda Rousey, and now Grayson Waller. People who know to keep doing that through the match. In a sense, it's like almost they're distracted. They're not really focusing on their opponents. But, they realize it's a show. The crowd's giving it to them, and they give it right back. That's good heel wrestling.
Yeah.
You know that. You wrestled as a heel in indie pro wrestling, and you gave it to the crowd all the time.
It's a man after my heart, really, with the style.
Right?
Because he didn't have the greatest body in the world. He didn't have the best moveset, but he was very functional in that main event role. And this was not like a 5-star thing. It's not like, wow, this is like the next big thing or he's amazing. I was like, but he's pretty serviceable in there. And I liked it. So
Any moves you wanted to touch on? Because you talk about his move set. You've brought up some of the offense.
So they have to do the slide to the outside or the dive
Yeah.
to the outside. So because he's a heel, he knows, and maybe just because he can't do it, but he doesn't do a dive to the outside. All the bait faces or the heels, no matter what, everybody just dives to the outside. But he slides under the ropes and hits a move to Edge.
It's a
So
clothesline. That's a good wrinkle on it. I like that.
Yeah, so I thought that was a creative thing to do as a heel. Like they have to do the dive to the outside, then make it a little bit unique. Rey Mysterio does a great job with making it unique with the face first baseball slide, which is completely crazy.
Waller, to me, I like that he was selling his ribs. I mean, that's not necessarily considered a move set, but really selling an injury, selling that a guy's been pounding away at your ribs, that's good. And he was selling that for a long time. You know, he didn't just no sell Edge's offense. I thought it was really good. For all of his maybe lack of acrobatics compared to some of the other guys in there, he seemed serviceable. Did a really neat looking sunset flip into what was supposed to be an unprettier onto Edge that he and Christian had both used early in their careers, especially for a 2 count. And that's a good callback to Edge's promo on the Grayson Waller effect near the top of the hour there, the middle of the show, when Edge was basically talking about, you know, he's been wrestling in the WWE for 25 years, and now he had some great moments in Madison Square Garden, where tonight's SmackDown originated from. So I think Waller was good at that. He eventually loses the match because he goes for this somersault stunner move of his. It's akin to Austin Theory somersaulting through the ropes and hitting a move. Apparently, Grayson Waller is supposed to somersault into the ring and then hit a stunner of some sort. It takes a while to develop, and Edge winds up short spearing him to counter it, and that's what gets the 3 count there. But yeah, Grayson Waller looks serviceable in the ring. Australia. I think they've given us Grayson Waller, Bronson Reed, and Rhea Ripley. Australia doesn't have a ton of people, and they're not considered a country with a long history of pro wrestling culture and superstars. But it looks like we got some 3 really good young wrestlers. If I'm remembering correctly, that Bronson Reed and Rhea Ripley are from Australia as well. I like the match. This was an above average TV match.
Yeah, and a lot of it could have been Edge kind of formatting it in a way and working with him a lot. And at the end of the match, the whole, I guess the whole idea was sink or swim throughout the whole thing. You know, sink or swim, sink or swim. And Edge grabs the mic at the end and says, you know, you swam.
Hey, Waller, you swam. So a good rub. That's a good babyface move by Edge. And it's a way to give some respect to Grayson Waller. So yeah, his first match, he's not going to win, but he's not buried. Do you want to see more of Grayson Waller in the ring after watching this match?
The Grayson Waller effect or Grayson Waller?
Grayson Waller, the wrestler in a match.
I'm cool with Grayson Waller, the wrestler.
Good, then they did their job.
Yeah. And it's really funny because we were talking about or they're doing the sink or swim thing tonight. And I can remember saying last week that he's drowning in the deep end. So he's out there, he's drowning. Are they watching the show? Did they hear me say he was drowning? And now
they're stealing our metaphors.
Right. I said he's drowning in the deep end, and he came up, and this last Grayson Waller effect was him kind of coming to the top of the water and breathing a little bit and then going back down. You know, he's
treading water.
He's still
the Grayson Waller effect was weird, but if it got us to this match, then I like it. I like where this goes. And frankly, if he has more matches, that probably means he has fewer Grayson Waller effect TV shows with the tropical plants and the corny lines and everything. So this is good. We know he has a personality. Now we've seen him talk better, trash talk his opponents and jaw with the crowd. To me, that shows a lot more ability than trying to be smarmy in a talk show setting.
for sure.
So
Well, I'll tell you what. That's our main. Well, that was the main event match.
that's the lead.
That's the lead.
What do we got for the follow? What else do you want to go? I mean, it seems obvious where we want to go next, right?
The follow is going to be a lot of the two bloodline segments,
Sure.
which were completely on fire tonight, even more so than usual with the bloodline because of the Madison Square Garden crowd. Had a lot of energy
Yes.
in the beginning and the end. So, Dom, what did you think of the promo in or the beginning opening promo and the end promo?
You analyzed it, I think, pretty well when you said it was kind of a rehashing of what they had done at the beginning of the show there at the end. Basically, Roman Solo and Heyman are in the ring. Jay's coming back from the hospital where he had traveled there with Jimmy because Jimmy wound up getting beat up. He took the worst of it in that long opening segment. Jay's music hits there in the final segment, but Jay walks through the stadium. Big baby face move. Jay just walking down through the stadium. Jumps the barricade, attacks Solo Sikoa, grabs a chair. He attacks Roman with the chair as Roman goes to hit him with the belt. Roman kind of, as he's getting beat down, Solo comes in and stops the final chair shot, but then that just means that Solo gets beat down now as Roman, chicken heel, even though he's the world champ, slides out of the ring. He's hightailing it up the entranceway with Heyman, who is a chicken and is supposed to be. But yeah, Roman doing the chicken heel thing there, and it winds up being Jay after destroying Solo. Standing in the ring with the microphone, he says that Jay is going to be the judge, jury, and executioner in the trial of Roman Reigns. And he wants him one-on-one. Are they setting up SummerSlam here?
Feels like it, right?
Feels like it.
Feels like the challenge was laid down. Jay was way over with the Madison Square Garden crowd. And we've got some people here that are watching live. So if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all the things we're streaming toward, send us a chat and we'll feel free to talk to you. So we'd like it to be as interactive as possible.
If you have a question for us about tonight's SmackDown, I'm gonna maybe they can answer the same question I'm asked to you, John. The amount of time given to both bloodline segments tonight, too much? Could this have been shorter or just enough, or did you want to see more of it? I mean, I'll give you a few numbers. The opening bloodline segment thing goes through, I think, at least one commercial, almost a second one. Yeah, they go through a second commercial at 8:45, where after all the in-ring schmaz goes, and they come back from the commercial. That's when we see Jimmy getting taken on a stretcher to the ambulance. They go past 8:40. Show starts at 8 o'clock for us here in Jersey. It's past 8:40, and we've just seen the bloodline schmazing and brawling and the Roman Reigns talking and everything. Too much?
I thought the opening segment was great and perfect,
Okay.
but that second segment at the end of the show was bizarre because they had, as you mentioned, they took 40 minutes in a talking segment, intro segment, talking, the whole thing, and then the schmaz, and then the brawl. So then they just added more to the talking and the brawl at the end. I mean, I had enough once. 40 minutes it's crazy they even made 40 minutes and made it work, but to add on an extra 10 minutes, I mean, they're really squeezing a lot out of this bloodline thing. I mean, we're talking like half the show was just a bloodline promo. But ultimately, I'd have to say it did its job. It was pretty cool. Roman dropping in the beginning when he takes the thing off, like the crowd, the audible like hush over the crowd when he takes it off and then like puts it on him. And then he drops to his knees and he's crying and he low blows him. I mean, you kind of knew.
Yes,
you knew it was going to happen, but it's still great.
Yes. Yeah, it was good. I do think they needed to have the second segment because it seems like they wanted the show to go off the air with Jay kind of standing tall there, and the opening segment was not it. So the way the opening segment ended, they were almost begging for a second segment at the end of the show.
Right.
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 Now this long bloodline segment at the beginning, do we think it took something out of what we would expect to be a hot Madison Square Garden crowd, especially coming off a big pay-per-view over in London? Money in the Bank was just this past Saturday, July 1st. Because the other the match that followed this, kind of a banger. Do you want to get into the U.S. Championship match, or do you have more to say about the Bloodline?
Yeah, this might be the best match of the night. Austin Theory versus Sheamus.
Yep.
Dom, what did you think of this match?
Austin Theory wins at about 13 minutes here. And there's this bunch of run-ins here. Sheamus eventually has the clover leaf, that sort of figure fourist scorpion deathlock sharpshooter hold, but it's you lock in your arms rather than your legs for it. So it's I think called the Texas clover leaf. He's got that applied to Austin Theory, and here comes Pretty Deadly. It looks like we've got an alliance here. It's Austin Theory, Kit Wilson, and Elton Prince. Pretty Deadly comes running out. Before they can really get into the ring, Sheamus breaks the hold and goes after them, so that's why there's no DQ. Eventually, the rest of the Brawling Brutes come running out. It's Ridge Hollins and Butch. And now there's, the four guys beating up on each other on the outside. Back in the ring, they're trying to get back into the match. Eventually, Kit Wilson's up on the apron. Sheamus looks like he's setting up Austin Theory for the Brogue Kick, but instead, he angles a little bit to his left and Brogue kicks the crap out of Kit off the apron. And that allows Austin Theory to roll him up from behind for the pinfall. So a real heel move there, a heel victory again for Austin Theory. Does this continued Austin Theory needing to win with help, does it kind of take some of the luster off of his title reign here, or has it not been overdone yet, considering he's supposed to be a heel?
Austin Theory, unfortunately we lost Gunther, and those are such big shoes to fill, and I don't think he's done it yet. Not for me. I know he's supposed to be a really great worker, and he's one of Vince's boys, but this one is like this. I don't know. I feel like it's time for him to pop it off to somebody, or I don't know, or do something. And maybe what they're, which is really odd, is Pretty Deadly interferes so randomly. Like, so Pretty Deadly and him are like cool, and like, I don't know, just Pretty Deadly being involved now. I guess really what I would have to say is Austin Theory needs kind of a rival, and they need to build a storyline, and do something with this title.
They do, yes. Like you said, they either have to pop it off him, or they have to give him a rival, maybe a strong victory where he looks strong, where he looks like a champion.
It's tough to tell because he's been a champ for a while on Raw, but we don't watch Raw, so I'm like, who is this guy? I know he's Vince's boy. I see him in pay-per-views. He's pretty good in pay-per-views, but I don't really know much about him. And there's probably way too much to squeeze in. Also, we did 50 minutes of Bloodline segments tonight, so it's probably tough to get the rest of the guys in there.
Only 3 matches on this card, one of which was a squash. So yeah, they were time crunched here. This match kind of decent. Sheamus, doing the yeoman's work in there, trying to, as a longtime wrestler, a veteran, a guy with a good name, trying to, put over Austin Theory, that, Austin can stand in there and go toe to toe with him. But yeah, Gunther's a fairly young wrestler too. Yeah. Gunther's matches felt like a championship match on SmackDown, didn't they?
Yeah, that's a great point. When he defends the belt, you're not like, whoa, it's time. Like, Gunther would defend the belt. I mean, this is really tough to compare because he's so great. But Gunther would wrestle, and I'd be like, okay, I gotta watch this. But every time he's on, I'm like, okay, I'll kind of watch it. But like, I don't.
Gunther was a heel, but didn't have to win with the chicken
Mhm.
maneuvers and the interference all the time. Like especially towards the end, they started keeping the rest of Imperium out of Gunther's matches unless it was just a brawl with other guys on the outside. So maybe Austin Theory has that in him where he can be a formidable champ. I don't know. But a fun little match here, and good to get some wrestling into the first hour, at least a little. This was our only match of the first hour of SmackDown tonight. Um, that went into the Grayson Waller effect. Do we want to talk the squash match here next?
Yeah, we can get into it. And AJ, this probably was the worst match of the night. Only because it really wasn't. I mean, they did all they could, but AJ Styles goes over your boy, Tick Tock.
Karrion Kross, he beats him in about 2 minutes, hits the phenomenal forearm for the pinfall. So in that
Wait,
weird
how
mixed
long was
tag
it?
match, Karrion Kross got sort of a squash win on AJ in like 3 minutes. And now they come out one-on-one. The women do brawl on the outside because Mishin and Scarlett are down at ringside. And AJ now wins in 2 minutes. So these guys have had two matches for about the length of a healthy commercial break during SmackDown. This can't be what they're going for from this feud, can it?
What's so crazy is this is probably the most developed feud I can think of on SmackDown. They've done segments, they've flipped the cards, they had
Yeah,
brawls on the outside of the ring, and they've been alluding to all this, like this is going to be a big matchup, a big rivalry, and it's over in like 2 minutes.
sure.
AJ Styles just destroys Karrion Kross. So I don't know what happened here.
I mean, not a lot to talk about. We've probably spent more time analyzing it than Cross and AJ spent bell to bell in the ring.
The only
I don't
thing,
know what to say, but for like you're saying, for as much as they put into hyping this, this can't be the end of it, can it? They've got to have a real match at some point, right?
yeah, even I don't even know what would be the why there'd be a rubber match needed because AJ Styles just won clean in like a couple minutes. So it's not like Karrion Kross went over dirty and then like there's got to be a rematch. No, it's like AJ Styles won clean. Okay,
There
but
you go. They spent more time on the vignettes and the backstage stuff and turning over a card than they did actually settling it in the ring.
and you got to think with a guy like AJ Styles, he's so much more valuable in the ring, in the squared circle, rather
Mm-hmm.
than the vignettes and the promos. That might be like he's a little bit weaker in that stage, but he's
Yeah.
money in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if this one got bumped. Like they didn't have a lot of time, and they said you got 2 minutes, you got 2.5. Go out there, finish up because we're gonna go with the Grayson Waller effect, or we're gonna go with the Grayson Edge match, and then we have to fit in that last 10 minutes. So
Yeah, now the other thing could be it looked like Karrion Kross's one of his legs was heavily taped. Maybe he has a legit injury, and so they just had to, hey, look, work stiff for 2 minutes. He's going to hit you with flying forearm. Just get out of there. Try not to hurt it any further than it is. If it's a legit injury, and maybe they've got to wait a few weeks to have a real match because I would like to see AJ and Karrion Kross have a match. I think they're both. I mean, AJ's obviously the more seasoned veteran and the upper echelon guy, but I'd like to see Karrion Kross get in there and have a match with AJ. I think AJ could elevate him.
I guess they were in a tough spot because what do you do with 2 minutes or
Yeah.
3 minutes? You can't really take away from anything, but yeah. So that's the last match of the night. We
What
did
about my favorite segment of the night? And I'm not kidding. I thought this was a great segment.
Yeah, go ahead, take it away.
Asuka's in the ring on the mic, and she's in her sort of broken English, but very you said the word when we did Money in the Bank. Very charismatic. She's in the ring. They can't handle Asuka, and Bianca Belair's music hits, and she comes running out, and they start brawling. And then so Charlotte Flair comes out to join in. And so they're really pushing these three top women on the SmackDown brand. And I want to see it. You can give me any two of those three, and I think it'll be a great match. And then they add something to it. The winner of the Money in the Bank match on the women's side, Io Sky from it looked like the crowd side of things comes running into the ring, attacks Asuka, floors her. She's got Bailey with her helping her as well. Io hits a top turn moonsault and then attempts to hand the Money in the Bank briefcase to the ref. But just before the ref can accept the briefcase, Bianca pulls the ref out and they start brawling again. Io tries to grab the briefcase again. Charlotte comes in, decks her. So we had really 5 top women competitors involved in this. May not have lasted more than 5 minutes, but there was a ton of action. I was excited for it. I think the upper portion of the women's division in WWE is as good as the men.
Yeah.
I mean, the 5 women who were involved in this, you give me any 2 of these 5 in a match, and I'm going to watch it. Any one of these 5 could be a champion. Any 2 of these 5 could put on a main event worthy match. I like it. I like where they're going. Even if Io and Bailey aren't supposed to be on SmackDown, they got drafted to Raw. But now that Io's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, I guess she can go wherever she wants.
Yeah.
What did you think of this? I mean, it's a schmoz. It's not an official match. Everybody's kind of got their street clothes on, some of them at least.
Yeah, I thought it was quick enough and a good enough segment to make people understand like who the top people are.
Yep.
And I liked the spot with Bailey. So any segment can be good now that you have the Money in the Bank. So Bailey is like cashing in, and people are like, they freak out. It's like, oh man, they're cashing it in. It's time. It's happening. And then like, of course, it doesn't get accomplished, the cash in, because there's too many people. And I like the person that breaks it up.
Bianca.
Is Bianca Belair, and gets a big boo from the crowd.
Yeah.
He breaks up the really cool thing. Bianca is prime right now to turn heel because she's getting booed more than. I mean, don't do the Cena thing where we just ignore the boos and we drag him out as a babyface for years and years and years to below mediocre SmackDown and Raws with Cena for years and years. I say, let's do it. Turn her heel. Because she's been struggling with the personality, really. Like, she's a great in-ring performer, and the crowd's rejecting her. Heel turn.
Yep. Now, that's a great point. These 5 women, they can all wrestle. They're fantastic. Yeah. They've all got personalities, even if Io and Asuka are learning English and trying to come along in that regard. Is the problem that we don't have clear babyface heel dynamics with these 5 wrestlers? I mean, maybe only Bailey is clear cut. She's a heel. She works heel. She talks heel. Her mannerisms, like Bailey gets how to do the character. But everybody else could be tweener.
Yeah. You know who Bailey reminds me of? Jericho. Where where Jericho's a heel, but he's kind of funny, or he's really funny, actually. Yeah. He's very funny, so the crowd seems to like him. But he's like a comedic heel. So, and it's not too edgy, what she's doing. Like, it's silly enough that it's entertaining. So, and then, obviously, in ring, she's really solid, much like Jericho's great, too. So, she reminds me of Chris Jericho. And the other 4, though, we need to get who's a face, who's a heel. We don't need all this gray stuff. We need to pick sides here.
I agree. I think Bianca would make a good heel because she works fast and aggressive. So you could see her stomping a mud hole in her opponent, couldn't you? Is that an old JR term?
Right.
stomping a mud hole. You could see Bianca just like snapping and stomping a mud hole in somebody in the ring. Charlotte Flair, obviously she can work heel. Um, Asuka had been a heel for a while, but she's so flamboyant. Maybe she turns and becomes a solid baby face. And Io Sky may even be a baby face. That's going to get weird because it looks like she and Bailey still have an allegiance there, an alliance. Like Bailey came out with Io Sky tonight to help her, even though Io Sky won the Money in the Bank ladder match by literally climbing over Bailey to get up the ladder.
Right.
So that's an interesting dynamic going forward. That was for me the most fun segment of the night. I think my match of the night was Edge, Grayson Waller. But the most fun segment of the night for me was these 5 top women wrestlers, mostly in their street clothes, just brawling all over the place with the Money in the Bank almost cash-in involved. And it lasted 5 minutes, so it's not like it went too long and you're like going, oh, come on, what are they doing? They're just wasting time. No, this was a fun 5 minutes.
Yeah. So overall, Dom, I'm gonna just say I thought the SmackDown was really good tonight, and I think what really put it over the edge here was the fact that the Madison Square Garden crowd was into it. They were into all the stuff that was happening, and Grayson Waller. It's cool to see him because I was starting to feel almost bad for him. Like when he's out there and he's doing these terrible talking segments, and the Grayson Waller effect is still bad. But just to see him go out there, wrestle a match, they gave him 20 minutes. They gave him Edge, who's going to be way over because of his history in Madison Square Garden and the fact that he's a known babyface. So they did all they could for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of get him out of this pickle they put him in with this horrible TV show.
I'm going to do Siskel and Ebert for you. You gave it a thumbs up. I'm going to give it overall a thumbs down. I like the Grayson Waller Edge match, and I like the 5 women brawling there. That was a fun segment. But other than that, I spent a lot of these 2 hours watching going, all right, and then, and okay, and we're going to do something. And, I thought maybe the bloodline stuff ran a little too long, especially if we were just supposed to have Jimmy get beat up and then Jay come back later. I think that could have been shorter. We could have got maybe a 4th match or not a squash out of AJ carrying Cross. So I'm going to give it slightly thumbs down there. So this is good. You and I, we disagree a little bit.
I like this segment idea. Why haven't we done this before? We should do a Siskel Ebert thumbs up, thumbs down. I say thumbs up, you say thumbs down. We're split here on this SmackDown.
Yeah, this is a split decision this week. I mean, some fun stuff. I mean, I wouldn't, just trash the whole show. But yeah, we're a little we're a little opposing here. That's good though.
Yes, I think there was there have been some SmackDowns where we've gone on here that are brutal, that I wish we had a thumbs up, thumbs down, because we could have just went on and on and on and on and on and on.
I think we had a few that were 2 thumbs down.
We're like 2 thumbs way down.
And we've had some where we had 2 thumbs up. So I mean, most of the time you and I are seeing things that basically we get there through different routes.
Yeah.
But we usually arrive in the same general location, but yeah, tonight was it is what it was. There's some stuff to look forward to in the future, but I mean, a lot of this was too much of it looked like filler, even the bloodline stuff.
All right, Dom. This is toward the end of the show, and we're gonna start with the Cheap Heat Italian goodbye stuff.
Okay, what do you got? You got anything fun that you want to talk about?
I have heard crazy rumors.
Crazy rumors.
And we didn't talk about this one backstage, so I'm just going to hit you with it.
Okay.
Drew McIntyre to AEW.
Really? I didn't know that.
Is a goofball rumor floating around, and I think it's seeming to make sense as McIntyre sent out some kind of cryptic tweet about kind of not being used or just not being happy with where he's kind of located. It's very cryptic, so you have to read into it, but I won't get into the tweet. But specifically, AEW is always looking to poach talent from WWE, and they have the Bucks to do it because they got that Tony Khan money. So unlike TNA, AEW is loaded to the gills with cash. So they've got the show in the UK, which now has sold over 60,000 or 65,000 tickets.
Wembley Stadium, yeah.
Wembley Stadium. So, yeah, AEW smashed that one out of the park where they've got already without a card announced like 65,000. So I think what they'll try to do is get more and more and try to break a record, make it 70, 75,000, which is...
Sure. Now, the Drew McIntyre rumors, is this something new because of the Wembley Stadium developments? Because I heard right after WrestleMania when Drew was off TV for a while that maybe his days in the WWE were winding down and would AEW want him. Have you heard new things recently because of how hot the ticket sales are for AEW's Wembley Stadium show?
I don't know specifically how sincere these rumors are. And I'll say that because there's always goofball rumors that get thrown around. And I think I just saw it in like some very, I don't even remember who said it. It wasn't like Meltzer. It wasn't like, usually if Dave Meltzer's saying stuff like that, it has a little bit of clout. But even he kind of makes stuff up. So it was like a very illegitimate source. But I think it's like them putting the pieces together. Kind of like when they do like theoretical trades in the NFL, like, oh, this might be, or like MLB, like, oh, who would be a good fit for the Phillies as they're on a hot streak, and who would they trade, and who could they get?
Sure.
Shohei Ohtani is probably going to be a guy you're going to see tons of trade rumors about. So
yeah, right. Fantasy booking is sort of the equivalent of trade rumors other places. That's interesting because Drew McIntyre he's just started up. It looks like a program with Gunther. He was at Money in the Bank after Gunther's win and attacked Gunther there. They had a good face-off in the WWE was just in London as well. Apparently they had another confrontation on Raw 4 days ago. So Drew is in a high-profile something or other. I don't know how long it lasts. Do you know when the AEW London pay-per-view is supposed to be? Is it before or after WWE SummerSlam?
After.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. Let's think. It's the day. I think it's the weekend before Labor Day.
Okay, so end of August.
End of August.
Okay, SummerSlam is beginning of August.
Okay, yeah. So there's some leeway there where I'm sure if Drew McIntyre though was going to AEW, they would have written him off, or I don't think they'd have him involved. So maybe that rumor is complete nonsense. Dom, we're talking cheap heat here as we wind down. Do you have any cheap heat?
I've got something from Logan Paul talking about the Money in the Bank match. It got a lot of replays, perhaps some social media traction. But Logan Paul and Ricochet were involved in a long, slow developing what was supposed to be a much faster high spot through two tables. And Logan Paul was saying, I've got to hear from, let's see, it's WrestleZone. And Logan Paul is basically saying on his podcast that he said there was a botched move with a dangerous landing. But that wasn't what was most interesting to me. What was most interesting to me is he admits in here, and this shows a lot of self-awareness. He says, keep in mind, I'm a noob. I don't really know what I'm doing out there. So when stuff goes wrong, I don't really know how to improv. I think for all the criticism Logan Paul has gotten, um, I think he has enough self-awareness that he gets what pro wrestling is. And if he did feel out of sorts there and maybe a little anxious, uh, he wound up just letting Ricochet take sort of control of that spot. They wound up executing something. I don't know how. I mean, anytime you're flying through the air into a table, into two tables, yes, there's a huge risk involved. Um, but it looks like it wound up being executed fairly well in the sense that they executed the move. It looked like a big old crash through tables like it's supposed to, but it didn't seem like either guy was in terrible danger once the move was over.
No, but they did break their fall with their head, which is not where you want to land that. Yeah, the Spanish Fly. I feel a certain type of way about that move already because
Okay.
sure it is cool and flippy-ish, and I think that's what Ricochet does best. And I know Logan Paul also wants to do that stuff, but why don't you guys just go off into the tables? I don't know. We got to do a
Mm-hmm.
Spanish Fly onto onto our head. It's already a car wreck, or it's already a car crash crazy enough match.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to add that to it? But ultimately, I have to say, um, kudos to him for kind of. I guess there's two things. There's two things I really have two takeaways. It's good that he is recognizing that, and it's interesting to hear him talk about how he can't improvise yet, which totally makes sense because that only comes from experience. You can't really teach that. But on the other hand, he's talking quite candidly about the spots he's doing and how, and kind of like way talking about like, out of like, oh, this is what I was doing during the show. Like kayfabe's completely dead for him. Or he's even talking about like, oh, like it's tough when you're in there and you can't improv because you don't really know how to. And then this is what we did.
Yeah, it seems like he's constantly doing shoot interviews, but whereas it's kind of fun to see the old timers do shoot interviews about the old days after they've retired, like Logan Paul's in the process of possibly building a career, and he's constantly doing shoot interviews on his own podcast.
If Roman Reigns right now was sitting there doing a podcast and just talking about like how they come up with the lines and all, and they're really digging deep into it, you'd be like, no, like this is the best thing on TV as far as WWE is concerned.
Yep.
And probably pro wrestling is concerned is the bloodline stuff. Like, don't tell the people.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that one. The whole Logan Paul thing, because he's such a media star and the WWE really can't control him. The WWE, in a sense, is almost at Logan Paul's mercy
For sure.
if they want to keep working with him because he already has a brand.
Yo, he's a huge straw.
And he already and his brand involves him engaging candidly, or at least, the sincerity is everything. If you can fake that, you've got it made. So his brand is either being very candid with his audience or being really good at faking a candor with his audience. So this is really unusual for pro wrestling, even in the Vince McMahon era, even in the post testifying before state legislatures era, even in the post steroids trial era when the curtain was pulled back a little. This is new ground.
Yeah. Totally crazy. I mean, to go that far, and to just start to explain what you're doing in that grade of detail a week after the show, rather than like when we're hung up and like nobody really remembers it, and it's like, oh yeah, we were doing this back then, and that's really interesting. But again, like
Does it ruin it for you? Because it really doesn't ruin it for me. But
no,
I wonder if there are fans that get annoyed at that. Are you one of them? Do you get kind of annoyed at that?
I wouldn't watch his. I've seen clips of his podcast, and I would never watch that thing. So
I've never seen it either. I'm not like clawing at the computer to go find it.
that's just totally not what I would watch. But, you know, I'd have to say he is one of these guys. He's got his own brand. He's doing his thing. I don't think it really necessarily like annoyed me, but I
Mhm.
think you got to be a little careful if you do see him being like a potential star. Like if he's, I, I'd prefer that he didn't do that. Although kayfabe is dead, but when you have
Yeah.
guys, and maybe this is a good example of one right now, is MJF never breaks kayfabe, and he does these shoot interviews as MJF, and he does post match conferences as MJF, and it's really tough to tell who this guy really is, and it's believable because he lives the character. You know?
That's old school pro wrestling, though, isn't it?
Yes.
I
That
like that about MJF. I like that he's that guy wherever he is publicly.
it's crazy. And to be that much of a jerk, he's unbelievable. The stuff he says to the people that are interviewing him, and he's just so quick witted that he really pulls it off. But yeah, so there's a great example of a guy that just doesn't break kayfabe, and I think it's really helped him out a lot in his career. Because the second they start to break kayfabe and they start to do like little talk shows and they're not baby faces, like it sort of takes away from it. So, any other cheap heat as we head toward the finish line here, Dom?
Yeah, a couple things from London. Number one, I saw a report published by Variety magazine. Money in the Bank, highest grossing arena event in WWE history. The episode of Friday Night Smackdown the day before, highest grossing Smackdown of all time. Both shows took place at the famed O2 Arena in London and collectively grossed more than 5.4 million per the WWE. I think gate comes from not only ticket sales, but those premium fan experiencing things. This was the highest grossing non WrestleMania event for fan experience packages in the company history. So apparently, it sounds like they were charging people a pretty penny to go to these London shows, and they still sold out and got a raucous crowd there. So this was big business
Yeah,
for the WWE. So while AEW is setting ticket records for Wembley Stadium, WWE is setting records of its own as far as fans coming out to these live events and being willing to pony up a lot of money and spend a lot of time and be immersed in a lot of not only the WWE in-ring event, but the merchandising, some of the fan interactions. London, London came calling, and the WWE answered.
I'll tell you what, it's pretty impressive that WWE has kind of kept this up, but it's not that much of a surprise. Um, Vince has really, even when Vince was out of the picture, this train just kept humming, right? And I think they're at a point where I wouldn't see them going down anytime soon and reducing from where they're at. And maybe they can build in a more intelligent way than they've tried in years past. I mean, they've tried stuff in India, which was goofy, and I don't think that worked too well. But as long as they can commit to their hardcore crowd, the people that watch them, and they're able to go to Puerto Rico, they're able to go to London, and I think they get a boatload of money from those countries too. So
they're trying to, aren't they? That was what I heard was part of John Cena's role at Money in the Bank and coming out there and talking about maybe bringing WrestleMania to London. Is that
oh
they're trying to get, they're trying to get some of these tourist organizations, maybe they're government connected, chambers of commerce, whatever, to pony up extra money to sort of bring them in as an attraction. Um, Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I heard that's why they moved Clash at the Castle out of London to another city last year. It was perhaps supposed to be near London, but instead they moved it an hour or two outside of it to something. I think it was called Cardiff was the town city. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot of posturing. WWE is a big business. They do a lot of business posturing, and sometimes they use their product to do that. Like we get, you talk about breaking kayfabe, they kind of break corporate kayfabe when we see some of these things on the programming.
And speaking of breaks, Dom, I think I need to have another water here. So we kind of going to head on home here. So
I got one more London thing for you. While they were over in London, the Guinness Book of World Records got together with Natalya and presented her with 6 distinct records that she holds. Most WWE matches for a female, 1,514. Most WWE wins in a career for a female, 663. So her record's under 500, but she's got the most wins there. Most WWE premium live event pay-per-view appearances for female, 75 she's been in, including 8 WrestleManias, which is also a record for females. Most Raw matches, 174. Most SmackDown matches, 200. Natalya, she is a long-time veteran who apparently can still go. She had a well-received match with Rhea Ripley this past Monday on Raw.
yeah,
I didn't get to see it, just saw like 3 minutes worth of highlight clips. But
now what was that number
good for
one?
Natalya getting recognized, right?
What? How many matches? 1,514.
1,513. So yeah, 14. Yeah, and with the Raw one, that's an extra now. So yeah, over
That
1,500 matches. I imagine that includes pay-per-views, house shows, all sorts of things. Because it looks like there's only 374 of them are on TV, either Raw or SmackDown. Another 75 at premium live events. That's only like 349. So you're still looking at almost 1,200 matches elsewhere.
that is
Up and
really,
down the road, paying her dues. She's been around long enough back when they used to have a much heavier touring schedule.
I'd have to say that is really impressive, especially considering all the dark matches in there. I wonder, man, what a workhorse. If she's out there wrestling 1,200 matches in front of a dead crowd, in front of just like whoever, and it's not on TV, good for her. And especially to wrestle 1,500 matches. My God. I mean, Logan Paul's wrestled 4 and he almost broke his neck. So, 5. People can learn a little bit from Natalya, because I'll tell you what, in the ring, she's pretty safe in there.
She is.
So clearly, if she's wrestled 1,500 matches, and I can't think of a serious injury she had. So kudos to her, and great cheap heat there. And we're hitting all kinds of. We hit our own records here at Don't Bury the Lead. We are now up to 90 subscribers.
All right,
a new high for us. Our goal this year is 100. So we're only 10 subscribers away from our 100th subscriber on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're new to our programming, if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, and you'd like to keep in touch with us and get notifications, please head over to YouTube and like and subscribe there as well. Yeah, follow us on whatever platform you like, but the most amount of stuff on the YouTube channel, the mothership, in a sense.
The mothership is on YouTube, and we utilize all the interweb for the different streams. Do pretty well. Facebook, we've been getting a lot of people. So thanks so much for joining tonight on the Facebook stream. And Dom, we've been Italian goodbying here for a little bit, but it's time to hit the actual goodbye here. Thanks so much for joining. As always, I appreciate it, Dom. This was we're going to do the thumbs up, thumbs down segment going forward. We're like that. And have a great rest of your evening.